We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Vav Amud Beis in Meseches Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 76b. On the previous Amud, Rabbi Eliezer employed Kal V'chomer arguments to prove that a person is able to preemptively be mefer the Nedarim of his wife. And so the Gemara asked, isn't it true that the Rabbanan also make similar kinds of Kal V'chomer arguments? And the Gemara brings a similar argument the Rabbanan make, so why don't they employ that kind of argument here? And the Gemara now answers in yes, bi'alma darshi kal v'chomer. In general, the Rabbanan would darshan such a kal v'chomer. V'shani hach, it's just different over here when we're talking about Nedarim. The Yomar Kra, because the pasuk says, Isha yikimenu v'isha yifeirenu. It says her husband is the one that upholds her neder, and her husband is the one that annuls her neder. And so therefore we darshan as shabol lechlal hakim, bo lechlal hafer. If you have a neder that's able to be upheld, meaning the neder has actually been formulated and expressed, so then it's also a neder that can be annulled. However, as shalo ba lichlal hakim, lo ba lichlal hafer. If you have a neder that's not yet come into existence, it cannot be upheld, so it also is not able to be annulled. In other words, the Rabbanan here have a gzeres hakasav, they have a pasuk, and that's why they do not employ that kind of kal v'chomer argument. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hafaras Nedarim Kol Hayom, when we're talking about the father or the husband being mefer the neder of the daughter or the wife, so that can happen all day. And the Mishnah explains, Yesh bedavar lahakil ulahachmer. When we say it happens all day, so there is a leniency in that kind of formulation, and there's also a stringency in that kind of formulation. And the Mishnah explains, Ketzad how so? Nadra belele Shabbos. For example, let's say she makes a neder on Friday night. So Yafer belele Shabbos uvayom haShabbos ad shetechshach. So he's able to annul the vow on that Friday night, and he also has the entire day of Shabbos until it gets dark. So there we see a situation, that's a leniency, so to speak, where he's going to have a long time to be able to be made for the neder. He can do it the whole Friday night and the whole Shabbos day. Nodra im chashecha. Now let's say on the other hand she makes a neder right before it gets dark. So mefer ad shelo techshach. He has to annul it before it gets dark. And the point is, the principle is shem chashcha v'lo hafer eino yachol lo hafer. If it gets dark and he has not yet annulled the vow, so he's not able to annul the vow any longer. So you take when she made the vow. Now it's possible to annul the vow at night if the vow was made at night. But the point is, once the day arrives, you have until dark. Once it gets dark, it's no longer possible, according to the Mishnah, to annul the vow. And the Gemara says, Tanya, we learned in a Braisa, Hafaras Nedarim Kol Hayom, the annulment of the vows is all day, and that's the same as our Mishnah said. And now we see an opposing view. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, they say me'es la'es. You get 24 hours. In other words, you have from the time the neder was made to the same time the next day. That's when you have the ability to annul the vows. And the Gemara says, my time at the Tanakama, what's the reason of the Tanakama that you have until dark? Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, Biyom Shamo, on the day he heard of it. And so if it says Biyom Shamo, it sounds like that day, and not the next day. The Rabbanan my time, when the Rabbanan who say you have 24 hours, what's their reason? Techsiv, because the pasuk says Miyom El Yom, it also says from day to day, and that implies you're talking about from the same time today to the same time tomorrow. And the Gemara says, well, Tanakama, but according to the Tanakama, Haksiv Miyom El Yom. Doesn't the pasuk indeed say Miyom El Yom, so you should get Me'es Leis? So the Gemara says, no, Itzrich, it needs to say that. Di'i biyom shamo, because if you only had biyom shamo, hava amina biyamama in belel yalo. So I would say, during the daytime, yes, and during the nighttime, no. And the Mefarish over here explains, biyamama in diyom shamo mashma yamama velo laila. In other words, the word biyom shamo sounds like this can only be done during the daylight hours and not during the night. Lahachik siv miyom el yom demashma yom shalim. That's why it says miyom el yom. It tells you that no, if the neder was made at night, it is possible to annul the vow at night. And so that's why, again, the pasuk says, Ksiv miyom el yom. The pasuk says miyom el yom to say that at night it is possible to be made for the nedarim. And the Gemara continues, Ulaman damar miyom el yom haksiv biyom shamo. But according to the one who says that it's 24 hours, me'es leis, and that's learned from miyom el yom, what does he do with the pasuk of biyom shamo? And the Gemara says, Itzrich. Gemara says, we need that pasuk, di chsiv miyom el yom, because if it only said miyom el yom, hava amina mechad b'shava, lechad b'shava leiferla. I actually might think miyom el yom means you have a full week. Let's say from Sunday to Sunday, he can annul the vow for her. Ksiv biyom shamo. That's why it says biyom shamo, to say that no, we mean to say a 24-hour period, not a full week. The Mefarish over here explains the imi yom el yom have a mashma mechad b'shaba lechad b'shaba dehachi mashma miyom el yom shekamohu. You could understand miyom el yom means from today to a day like today. Dainu shavua shalom, that would be a full week. Lahachi ksib b'yom shamo b'yom echad shalom me'es le'es. That's why it says b'yom shamo. It means to say no. It means a full day of 24 hours. It does not mean a full week. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi says that Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, Ein halacha ka'oso hazug. The halacha is not like that pair of Tanoim. The halacha does not follow Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar, who say that it's me'es le'es, it's 24 hours to annul the vow. Rather, the halacha is until it gets dark. And the Gemara continues, Levi savar l'miyavid kahani tanoi. Levi thought to follow the opinion of these two Tanoim. Amar le Rav, Rav said to him, Hachi Amar Chavivi, so says Chavivi. Chavivi is a reference to Rav's uncle Rabbi Chia. Ein halacha ka'oso hazug. Again, the halacha is not like that pair of Tanoim. And the Gemara continues, Chia bar Rav shadi gira ubadik. Chia bar Rav, when he would be asked to undo a neder, so he would cast an arrow, throw an arrow, and he would inspect the vow, meaning he wouldn't pay much attention when he would undo the vows. Similarly, Rabba bar Rav Huna Yosef v'koyim. Rabba bar Rav Huna would sit, he would examine the vow and get up immediately. Again, he would not spend much time examining the vows that he was undoing. The Ran over here explains, Chia bar Rav shadi gira uvadik agav grora de Rav maisi hacha. So we're just bringing it because we mentioned Rav over here, so we mentioned this as well. Hada Chia bar Rav. We mentioned Chia bar Rav, which is loosely related to what we're discussing. Shadi gira ubadik. Again, he would throw an arrow and he would inspect. Ba'odshay mesasek leiros chitzim means to say when he was busy shooting arrows. Hayabodek adam habolafanav lahater nidra. If someone would come to be mater neder in front of him, shoaloi mischaret umatiro. He would just ask, "Do you regret it?" And then he would undo it. To kasavar poschen becharata. The point over here is, according to the Ran, that we give an opening of charata to the person. That's why he felt you don't need to inspect this vow in order to find the Pesach. That is not necessary. Yosef v'koyim shaloyim medaktek b'davar. Again, he wouldn't be so exacting. Elo omeid v'yoshev k'moshayim izdamilo. He would just stand, sit. When it came before him, he would deal with it quickly, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph.